talks are an opportunity that we have to bring in creators of interesting texts. And we interpret text in a lot of ways, like art, film, music, and books, to come and talk about the text they created. So we're very happy to have SarahDooley here from Huntington, West Virginia. Sarah is the author of the new young adult novel, Livy Owen Lived Here, which is a story told from the point of view of Livy, a 14-year-old girl with autism, a loving family, and complicated memories of her life. Sarah's second novel, which is due out this fall, deals with two sisters raised in a Wiccan family who are faced with homelessness after their home was burnt and a religiously motivated hate crime, and is now in the copy editing stages, and she's currently drafting a third and fourth novel. In addition to her achievements as an author, Sarah holds a BA in special education from Marshall University, which is what I wanted to, and has several years of experience now as a special education teacher. In her work as a special education teacher, and this isn't in her packet, this is something I'm saying, she's been innovative, creative, and I believe has had a profound effect on her students. Sarah is here to talk to us today about her work, both as an author and as a special education teacher, and to answer any questions that you guys might have about her book and her upcoming books, and her publishing, her teaching, and working with and for children with autism. It is my pleasure to welcome our special guest, my friend, SarahDooley. Sorry, more fans. While they're coming, I'll just say real quickly how we're going to do this. It's a Q&A session. So I'll start by asking a couple questions to get us started, and then you guys can bring in a couple questions too. Come on in. Everybody's welcome. Your inspiration for the song. What took you to Livy?
All right. Well, I wrote Livy as a part of a class project that I assigned to my special education class that year. It's National Novel Writing Month, which is where you write a 50,000 word novel in a single month. For the kids, we worked with them to set their own word goals through either dictation to a scribe or picture choice. A couple of them were able to write their novels themselves, and they challenged me to write alongside them. So I wrote to the 50,000 word goal that's classic for NaNoWriMo, and because I was working with those kids, I wrote from the point of view of someone who would have been in our class, and it just grew from there.
Okay. Tell me more about your process. You said that this is part of the NaNoWriMo, but sort of, what does it look like when you write? We're really interested in what writing looks like in this program, and how you go about it. What kind of, do you draw pictures? Do you do charts? Like, how does it go?
Okay. Well, I fast draft when I start to write a novel. So I start usually on the first day, at least the first week, I've written half of the novel. And by the end of a couple of weeks, I've written the basic skeleton of the novel, basically what's going to happen, and then I go back and fill in detail and fill in scenes that I've missed to make things make sense. So when I wrote Livy, I wrote the first 10,000 words on the first day, which was about 30 pages, and I had wrote the entire thing in 17 days. And I just got the story down. It was 50,000 words because it was NaNoWriMo, but a lot of those 50,000 words did not stay in the final book. And then just went back. I just go through again and again and rewrite it until all of the pieces that I got down on paper in that first fast draft come together.
How do you deal with things like writer's block?
That's the point of NaNoWriMo, and that's why I like doing that project. And if any of you aren't familiar with NaNoWriMo, I suggest you check it out because it's not too late to jump in for this month. The point of that project and the reason that it works so well for me is that you're encouraged to not go back and look at what you have written. You're encouraged to not stop and think about what you were writing next. You just write the sentence that you're on, and then you write the next sentence that you're on, and you just keep going. And you're writing to a daily word goal, and you just can't stop. So no matter what's happening on the page, no matter how ridiculous it is, and I think the worst point during my second book was when I said, so okay, then they stop and they look around and they go, this is really stupid, this would never happen, but I'll fix it later. And that was a sentence in my first draft. But the point is to not stop, to just keep going and get the gist of the story down, and then you can go back and make it work from there.
I'm just wanting to sink in to our students that are in the room. Okay, talk about the publishing process and how that went.
Okay, well first I found an agent that was something that I hadn't planned to pursue an agent. I decided that was the way to go for this book because I liked this book. I wanted it to get out to as many readers as possible. So then my agent helped me find a publisher, and once I was working with the publisher, it was, I guess the novel went through a round of revisions with my agent, then it went through a round of light revisions with my editor, and then it seemed like every couple of weeks I was getting a box in the mail with notes in the margins in different colors of ink of, hey, did you know this character's name changes on page 47? Or, hey, wasn't she wearing an orange shirt this morning? Her shirt changed colors, you need to fix that. Little continuity errors, and at least 10 people read the novel and were still able to find little details like that needed fixed. So that was the gist. That was mostly what happened during the publishing process, was just going back through, every person involved was going back through and finding tiny little details that needed to change. And then suddenly everything started happening at once. It had a cover, it had a copyright page, it had an advanced copy, and it seemed like the whole process was quick and easy.
Can you talk about like how long it took for the whole thing to happen?
Sure thing.
What process you went through, what steps, in what order?
Sure. Well, starting what I did after I wrote the book and realized that I wanted to pursue publication was I started looking for an agent, which took the whole process happened really quickly. This is not a standard time frame for publishing. But I started looking for an agent and had found an agent within probably about 6 weeks, and then she found a publisher.
How many agents did you send it to?
I sent the book to 24 different agents and got rejections or just did not hear from 24 different agents. The 25th agent said yes. And then she started looking for a publisher, and we heard back from 6 different publishers with rejections before the 7th and 8th publishers decided that they wanted it at the same time. So, and that was about 6 weeks into the process of looking for a publisher. So then at that point I got to talk to the editors on the phone and make a choice between 2 publishing houses that had pretty different visions for the book. I lived in a basement apartment at the time, and the rent was pretty low because the other half of the basement apartment was the practice space for a jazz band on Thursday nights, and Thursday night happened to be the night that I needed to talk to the editor from Putnam. So I was sitting outside next to the interstate with my cell phone and my hand over my ear, shouting to the editor from Putnam to get her vision on the book. We spoke for over an hour. She was a wonderful person. And then the next morning I spoke to, I thought I was speaking to Liz Zabla, the editor at Fywell and Friends, who I would eventually go with. I thought I was talking to Liz, and I was calling her Liz the entire conversation, and it turned out to be Jean Fywell, the publisher at Fywell and Friends, who was very kind about the fact that I called her by the wrong name for the entire conversation. So after they made an offer, each publishing house had made an offer, and after I spoke with both of them, I made the decision later that afternoon, and the contract was in my hands within a few weeks.
Let's open the floor up for questions.